nuclear power equals kaboom! Nuclear power, while creating no greenhouse gases and having a large energy output, produces extremely radioactive waste that future generations of humans will have to deal with. After the accident in Chernobyl in 1986, nuclear power was considered too dangerous. But now, with greenhouse emissions growing rapidly, people are all too willing to turn to nuclear power to stop global warming. There are now over 400 nuclear power plants in the world, and 104 in the U.S. alone. Over 20% of the U.S.'s total energy comes from nuclear power.
The first stakeholder is, of course, the workers and the communities surrounding the nuclear plants. These people reap the rewards of cheap energy and jobs at the nuclear facilities. Unfortunately, some workers can be exposed to radioactive material, and there is always a chance of a dangerous meltdown and radiation poisoning the surrounding environment. These people are victims who have become economically dependent on the jobs that nuclear power provides for their communities.
The second stakeholder would be the proponents of nuclear energy. These people would be politicians who are looking at this as an option to slow global warming, or the companies that own the plants themselves. These people make a living off these facilities. If the solution is implemented, the nuclear industry could be gone forever, causing many lost jobs.
One of many non-government organizations that work to stop the nuclear industry is the Alliance for Nuclear Responsibility. This group hopes to protect the future from radioactive contamination in our ecosystems. They lobby for legislation to limit the production of radioactive waste. They work to educate the population on the dangers of nuclear power.
Come on, guys, we need to get going on this nuclear waste stuff because
this is my last resort!
Nah, I might be over-exaggerating, but currently, governments everywhere agree that burying processed nuclear waste deep underground in a multi-layered container is the safest way to get rid of waste. However, it is impossible to monitor storage so deep underground, and it runs the risk of contaminating underground water and seeping into and contaminating the environment. The obvious solution to the issue of nuclear power and the subsequent nuclear waste and nuclear disasters is using renewable energy and conserving as much electricity as possible, reducing our reliance on nuclear energy and other types of energy that produce greenhouse gases. One reason we need to implement such a solution is simply the problem of nuclear waste. On average, 3,000 tons of high-level radioactive waste is produced by commercial plants in the U.S. alone. As waste production grows, we still have no solution as to where to keep it. Currently, most high-level waste is being held on-site, but we can't do this forever.
Another reason is nuclear power presents many dangers to the environment and the people living near the plants. In 1986, at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant, in what was the Soviet Union, the largest nuclear disaster in history occurred. There was an explosion that wiped out the plant's reactor, spreading radiation around the surrounding area. The accident was the result of a flawed reactor design that was operated with inadequately trained personnel. Another nuclear disaster occurred much more recently. In March of 2011, Japan was hit by a large earthquake that damaged the reactors in the Fukushima 1 nuclear power plant. The plant experienced a series of equipment failures, nuclear meltdowns, and releases of radioactive materials that ravaged Japan and caused a worldwide commotion. The effect of these two nuclear disasters can affect a large number of people in the area. Exposure from radiation from damaged reactors can cause acute radiation syndrome, or ARS. Over 20 years after the accident at Chernobyl, this sign outside a nearby forest reads, "Radiation contamination. Mushrooms and berries gathered must be subjected to radiation checks."
The third reason is that nuclear power is not perfectly efficient. It still creates pollution, just a different kind. This pollution comes in the form of highly radioactive material that cannot be safely stored over thousands of years in any location. It is also expensive. In fact, it costs $40,000 to replace just one-third of used material in a reactor. There is estimated to be only 30 to 60 years left of uranium on the planet. Nuclear power is not a renewable resource. Unfortunately, getting rid of all current nuclear power plants is unrealistic. As we try to reduce our reliance on nuclear energy, some people are trying to find effective ways to get rid of current nuclear waste. One of these solutions is deep burn, where reprocessed nuclear waste would power very high temperature reactors, or VHTRs. These would destroy most of the waste that normally is unsafe for so long, and have the potential to deliver 10 times the energy of the original fuel.
You may not think that nuclear power has anything to do with what's going on in our community, but the fact is, the whole world is affected by it. Although Washington is not directly impacted, we still feel the effects of the pollution it causes. With nuclear waste almost impossible to dispose of completely, there is no way to escape the inevitable issue it will be in the future. But there are ways that Washington helps to stop the use of nuclear power, one of these being the use of hydroelectric power. Washington is the leading producer of this alternate form of energy, producing almost 3/4 of its energy from hydroelectric power.
It might not seem like we can do a lot as ninth graders, but as a community we can make a big difference. First of all, we can influence our parents to buy more energy-efficient appliances. Also, we can wash our clothes with cold water instead of warm, and dry them on clotheslines instead of using a dryer. A big waste of energy comes from leaving things plugged in. Even while turned off, things like televisions, Xboxes, cell phone chargers, cable boxes, and even your netbooks suck up energy. To stop this, unplug your electronics, or hook them all up to one power strip to turn all the power to them off at once. The best way to be energy efficient is by storing your own water and using wind and solar power to generate your own electricity. Another thing to encourage around the house is to replace incandescent light bulbs with compact fluorescents. These last up to 8 times longer and use 4 times less energy, proving their efficiency. So what are you waiting for? None of us want the horrifying effects of pollution and radiation in our community. All of us can work together to reduce our reliance on nuclear energy. Let's act now before nuclear disasters and radiation make us all dust in the wind.